there's a lot of buttons to push on Phil's end right now. There's like,
Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Chichester Chats. It's me, Phil. Lilith is here.
Yo.
Justin is here. And of course, the man, the myth, the Kirker Spock. It is Mr. DG Chichester.
The legend in his own mind. It's great to be here, guys. Thanks again, as always, for doing this, and I feel like I'm dressed for the writer discussion, like a typical writer sort of flannel shirt. It's all good. So
that's right, because this time we're gonna do something a little different. We're not talking comics. We're talking street writers.
Whoa! Look at that.
Fiction?
Nice.
I've got a copy too, except I got weird focus. It's like 3D, it goes back and forth in honor of John Candy. So
the podcast that became a book.
Exactly. Because I was very slow last winter. I needed things to do to occupy my time.
So how did the actual podcast start with you and Mark? Because I did it start during COVID? Because I did see there were some chapters where you guys were talking about
in 20. I think the first one was 2019, though, right?
Yeah, we started before COVID. So I had I've been laid off twice, in my illustrious career. The second time was during COVID, but it was handled very above board, and as much as that can be. And the time before that, which I write about, like in the start of this, was a real bad way to handle things. I think the technical term is shit show, and I was definitely looking for things to kind of keep myself occupied. And Mark came upon the idea of like, why don't we do a podcast about creativity? And so he and I and a mutual friend of ours, Jeff Bradison, started doing this kind of long, rambly podcast. And it was supposed to be about it was about creativity, but it kind of didn't have direction, and sometimes we talk like an hour and a half.
Relatable content for us.
Yeah, and it was some of it was good, some of it was like, my kid got a new Lego set, and so it just didn't really jibe. We didn't feel like the energy was there. We were having a good time getting together, but it felt like we were sort of stretching. And then Mark came back and said, Jeff is an art director, creative director, but an art director by trade. And Mark, thought that we might have a more focused approach if it was just about, us thinking about writing. And he said, what would you think about doing something in a much more targeted way about writing and keeping it short? He was really insistent on that, maybe from the hour and a half experiences, And so then we liked that idea. Mark and I had worked together in various capacities for years and years and years across different companies and a lot of projects. So we knew we were pretty simpatico and, shared sensibilities and shared sense of humor. And so we went back and forth, wanted to give it a structure, and we landed on, sort of 3 parts in 10 minutes, and part 1 would always be the tip, a way to get writing going for ourselves and listeners, something maybe we had used. The second part was something that we really liked as writers, and that could be anything that was movies, that was books, that was games, video games and such. I brought a lot of that to the table. Mark brought a lot of articles and stuff he had read. And then the third part was talking about something we were currently writing. And so it had a nice rhythm, nice structure. And we went back and forth on a name, and then we mutually settled on Street Writers because we thought that captured that essence. We enjoyed a lot of writing podcasts. There is a lot of great writing podcasts, but there's also a lot of writing podcasts that are sort of drifty. They're been effervescent, and we wanted it to be more practical. We had always much of our writing, had been on deadline for clients in the advertising, world especially. And so, no matter what, you've got to write. You can't sit around and wait for the muse to happen. And so we wanted a very practical approach to that. And so we started it probably, maybe a year, or so before, COVID, hit hard. And then we would pivot to, the COVID specials.
I think there's a chapter where either you or Mark's like, I'm in the laundry room right now.
Oh yeah, we bounced around. Like we started at a Mark had a sort of a working arrangement at not WeWork, but a kind of a local WeWork spinoff. So our first episodes, we would go there. He had kind of like a carte blanche access to it, and we'd go there after hours or toward closing, and we'd find like an empty closet. And the first one I remember, we found like some old bookshelves, and we sort of stacked them up and got the mic up to like mouth level, and it was this rickety thing where if you breathe too hard, it was all going to come down like a Jenga set. And you could hear the hollowness, and we were sort of like doing that. Hi, we're doing a podcast. Hi, I'm Dan. Hi, I'm Mark. Type of thing. And so it was a little awkward there. It didn't feel like a good use of the space, and I think that place would close down not too long after. And then Mark, offered up his place to record at, and literally it was the laundry room. He had a little laundry space, and it was towels and stuff was stuck there. You'd close the doors, we'd put some more towels on the doors, and we did that, for a good stretch of time. In between, I had sort of built for some of the other audio recording work I had done. I built like a PVC pipe mini studio with some sound blankets, around it, which I've used for other projects. And I think we were talking about kind of segueing to that because it will give us a little more physical space. Whether we were going to set that up at my place or his, we never got to that because COVID happened, and we wanted to keep doing it, and then we had to pivot to, like everybody else did, well, how do you record in Zoom, and what do you do, and all that kind of crap,
Yeah,
You're muted.
Yeah, exactly. It's like what, or you'd record something, it would come out like, like all this, glitchy crap, and then you'd have to like reconstruct it. And there was one entire episode we did, but actually I think that was in the laundry room where Mark didn't hit record. And it was really good. We said, man, that one was really good. He's like, oh shit, I didn't hit record. So we didn't even have to wait for Zoom, for technical problems, but we were having fun. It was a, we like I said, we had a good dynamic, and we were having a lot of fun with ourselves, and we liked the topics we were on. And then it had always been an intention to invite other people on, and then we started to do that like periodically, like once a month, or
Those just your friends, or just like people you just reached out to, like you'd read some of their stuff, or just a mix.
Yeah, it was a combination. I mean, a lot of the advertising folks who were in there, were people we had worked with over the years. People would start off as writers, or in the industry, and then they had risen up in the ranks. They'd become creative directors or heads of companies, and so we had a pretty good high-powered contact list. We didn't need LinkedIn, but some Mark knew, some I knew. Mark knew Marshall Curry, who's a Oscar winner, for his filmmaking. We were able to bring him in. Nancy Kidd, who was a professor at American University, I believe she still is. She reached out to us. She was our first piece of sort of fan mail, fan email, and she said, I do a course on writing as fighting, and I play your episodes, and I need 10 minutes back in the class. It's like you guys have a good, you're a couple of smart asses, you have a good dynamic. And so she reached out to us, and then we said, well, why don't we have you on as a guest? And then she introduced us to a few other people, including Chris Roy, who was the guy who is in prison and became a writer while in prison, now runs a PR firm, from prison, a literary PR firm, from prison. And that was the most surreal morning, ever, to kind of get on and record, with him, on his, I assume, his bird or cell phone, and from his cell, and you're listening to, crazy shit in the background, and he's describing his life and situation. So, but it was a good mix. It was a lot of fun to mix that up, and hear from other people's perspective on the show, because a lot of them had listened to it because they knew us, but also just what they saw as tips, what they were into. Some of them were just kind of reaching, like, what do you want my opinion for? And some had, just super direct advice. Chris Golden, horror writer, primarily known for horror, gave us the tips about, like, contract, your contract. He was just right to the heart there. He said, doesn't matter if it's good, bad contract. That's up to you to decide if you want to sign it, but make sure it's in there, before you do it, which was
smart.
Yeah, that's spot on. Smart stuff.
We're supposed to be talking about writing, but now I'm obsessed. So we're you and Mark getting fan letters from prison?
Well, no. Nancy was the professor at American University who reached out to us by email, and then she had worked with a couple of people, or had come in contact with a couple of people, and then one of those was Chris Roy, and or Henry Roy, as he goes by, for his PR firm. And she said, you guys should really interview him. And so we reached out and to the email she had, and he was like, yeah, absolutely, sure, but you're calling this guy not on the whatever the prison phone system is. We're calling him in his cell, and it's like, and it's just, he's giving you partly inside tour of the prison system, as well as his his situation, and his situation is he's never going out of prison. He's there, he's there for the rest of his life, in all. So that was, but in the course of it, in the course of going to prison and things that happened, he had begun boxing. Which is how Nancy had come to know him, and the boxing led to writing. The discipline of boxing led to him writing, and writing some successful books. And then in writing the successful books, he said, well, I bet I can market myself, and then I can market other people. So both other prisoners and clients beyond that.
That's interesting. Yeah, just from the physical thing of boxing to go to the writing.
Yeah, I mean, it gave him discipline. He was, he went through his whole history, and in part, I captured a lot of it in the book. The book does not include those other two parts. It does not include, hey, this is something we're into this week, or things we're working on. It focuses exclusively on the tip end of it, and but I let him run long because I thought it was very interesting, and his backstory was part of him getting to his tip. He the whole, he was pretty messed up. It sounded like getting into prison, which landed him in that situation, but boxing kept him out of certain things and gave him the discipline that he needed to kind of clean himself up, or focus on certain things, and then that led to the writing.
But I find it interesting because, like, I guess some of the things I've heard before, it's like, you got to write. You know, if you want to be a writer, you got to write, and you got to get stuff out. Even like I know some of the chapters, you were like, you know, if you got to write, you know, just spend like a minute writing out curse words or whatever, just get something out. But I thought it would always be, you know, you got to write as long as you can. But then I know at certain points you were like, you know, if you got to take a break, take a 15, you know, write for 15 minutes and stop, or write for 10 minutes and stop. And I was just like, really? So like, like you could do like a 10-minute chunk and it's the fine and productive stuff, you know.
I think that was one of our earliest tips, you know, and the way Mark and I would work in the podcast is, you know, we'd sort of trade off who's doing the tip this week when it wasn't a guest. And then we'd kind of run past each other just so we'd know, you know, we wouldn't rehearse it at all, but like my tip's going to be this, you know, and I'll feed out the tip, and then, you know, you'll come back and challenge me or vice versa. And but one of the earliest ones we did was the Pomodoro method, which I think is what you're referring to, you know, Phil, you know, which was we believe named after like the old Pomodoro means tomato in Italian, and you know, the old kitchen timers used to look like pieces of fruit or vegetables, like, you know, the classic one you'd get at the, you know, Walmart, or not Walmart, or Woolworth, probably back in the day or something. You know, it was like a tomato, and you'd grind, you know, turn it to 30 minutes and click down. But you can use anything, and you know, I'm sure there's much fancier ones on the TikTok shop nowadays. But as non-intuitive as it is, the Pomodoro method is based around you write for 25 minutes straight, or you know, whatever creative work you're doing, 25 minutes straight. You stop as soon as that timer goes off. It doesn't matter if you're in mid-sentence, mid-word, you know, you're logically, no, let me just finish this paragraph. Let me just finish this sentence. But non-intuitively, you stop, you take a 5-minute break, and you come back and you start again. And you do that 4 times. On the 4th round, you get to take a 15-minute break. And by break, I mean, you know, you don't go and like just turn to the other screen on your computer, you know, and you know, get up, walk around, do something, like break the cycle. And you know, both Mark and I found it like a huge refresher. And you know, we the 3 things we probably came back to the most, you know, in the whole podcast was like you know, Stephen King, Elmore Leonard, and the Pomodoro method. You know, like
3
it was like
things.
sort of this. Yeah, it wasn't too bad as a holy trio. But yeah, it really, you know, it is totally non-intuitive, but you know, I'll stand by it. And when I forget to do it, or you know, I sort of do that, no, I'm going to power through and finish this paragraph. I'm going to work another, you know, got to crack the code on this. I got to do it. I find it's much more of a challenge. You know, I think it has something to do with that. You know, you stop, but your mind keeps working, and you know, it's sort of like doing some stuff for you. So then when you do come back to it after that 5-minute break, it's had a little bit of that refresh. But you know, that's definitely one I still you know, prescribe to. You know, from you know, there's a lot of them. I mean, that I used and use, and things I learned from, you know, some of the other folks that I still work, you know, still work for me.
And I was intrigued. You did bring up something Lilith and I talk about all the time. South Park, the guys.
Oh yeah,
South Park. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and Mark challenged that one. You know, you could sort of pick it up in the
Matt
in the
and Trey give
transcript.
great advice about writing, though. They really
They
do.
do.
I've never seen any of their interviews and stuff. So.
Yeah, they're really good. Yeah, I mean, they're amazing writers. I mean, when you think about it, you know,
they're playwrights and, you know, and other things. They're not just South Park. A lot of people, you know, even if you don't like Team America, like the things that they've done outside of South Park are pretty interesting.
Oh yeah, well,
Gazmo,
Book of Mormon.
even I'll stand by that. Yeah. So.
Oh yeah,
Book of Mormon, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's you know, that's like, you know, phenomenal stuff. I'm just looking up the I have my copy here, so I'm looking up the South Park one. But
and like you point out, they wait and they like turn an episode around in a week. Well, especially these days.
Well, not anymore.
Well, yeah.
But it's 3 weeks
every other
now. They're
week,
older. Give them a break. They're older with the family.
Yeah.
Come on, you can't make gold out of Tiny Dick Trump in 1 week, Lil. Come on.
I mean, there's a
But
I love the Peter Thiel thing. I think people need to know. People needed to know,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
guarantee you that Google saw 1,000% increased traffic on Peter Thiel. So
right. These people don't want attention on them, which is why we don't no longer have Gawker because he drove them out of business.
yeah.
But that's for folks who don't know, that particular tip, is essentially comes down to if you're trying to tell a story and all you're doing in telling the story is just connecting the sections with and then and then and then this happens and then this happens, right? You think traditionally that is the way a story unfolds, but that is just spewing out. I had oatmeal this morning, and then I got my car, and then I drove to work. It's the essence of early, Twitter, but their whole conceit, and it's correct, is that you have to challenge every moment with a but or therefore, right? Every something happened. There's a consequence of that previous event that led to the next one. But you did something, but something contradicted it. You did something, therefore something else happened. And that's where you get conflict, and that's where you get drama. There's one guy who keeps saying he wants me on a podcast, and wants to talk about this book, which is nice, but he's like, but it has to have something to do with comics. Well, it has to do with writing. It's not about writing comics, but it's about writing, and that is what I do in comics. I'm not quite sure we're ever going to crack the code on it because he doesn't seem to get that. Well, where's the chapter on comics? Well, apply any of it to comics or none of it to comics. So I'm not going to sit around and dissect it and say this one is just for comics. Although there are comics people in there like David Quinn, and Evan Skolnick and such. So it's sort of funny to me that people sometimes will not, separate it, or will separate, I guess, as if that has to be about a comics thing, as opposed to this is just about writing. No matter what kind of writing you do, if you want to write your journal, if you want to write your business plan, if you want to write your comic book, you want to write your screenplay. I mean, we had people from every walk of creativity, in there, adding things to our thought process. So that was what was so fun about the podcast.
Another one that's funny you mentioned David Quinn. And that's another
Yeah.
one that stood out to me, where it's like, don't get bogged down in like the little tiny details. Like if you don't have a name for this character, just put name and then come back
Yeah.
and come up with one later, or put verb here or action verb and then come back and put in the right word.
I do that all the time. I mean, now, and David, someone sort of like unlocked that for me. I mean, I think I was one of those guys who, I struggle with it, like, well, what's the character's name? What's the line? What's the emotion? What's the comeback line? What's the snappy thing? And you'd stare at the screen, many long moments, many long hours, and get frustrated. It's so much easier, just bracket angry words go here, cool comeback goes here, and come back to it later. Just bold it, remind yourself, highlight it, and just keep moving. It's so simple but powerful because it keeps the momentum going. You're not finished on the first draft anyway, so why get hung up? And I think it's similar to that Pomodoro thing. I think it plants the seeds in the part of your brain that's going to keep working on it while you go and work on something else. You continue to lay out the next scene or whatever it is, and your brain is still processing whatever that cool line or the bullet points or whatever it is. I've found that worth the price of admission alone. For me.
I think the most important tip that you give is read, and read some more.
Oh yeah. Well, that's like, I mean, I'm sure we stole that from King. If I mean, I think he says that, writers read, and you have to. I mean, you have to find time to read in order to write anything, and that's that you're going to be inspired, you're going to get charged up, you're going to think about your work differently, or you're just going to say, this is so horrible, I can do better.
Yeah.
and any
We've
one
all
of
been
those,
there.
yeah, and any one of those are fine, right? And so, it's worth browsing the bookstore, Hoopla, whatever, and sometimes, um, uh, you just find things that get you like cooking with gas because it takes you in a direction you didn't expect. Over the summer, I was going on vacation, and I had not planned to bring a book with me. I said I got 1,000 books on my iPad or something, and my wife wanted to stop at the bookstore, and there on the table is this book called How to Survive a Campground. And it's like this awesome little horror book about this haunted campground and the pretty screwed up, dysfunctional woman who runs it, and all these haunts and ancient evils that sort of populate the ground. And it straddles the line between, sort of satire, goof, Hitchhiker's Guide, to a haunted campground, and really just awful shit that happens. And for me, that was like, wow, this just took me in a whole different direction for some things that I was working on. And if I hadn't read it, I wouldn't have had that sort of inspiration, refresh, sense of oh, I got to do better. This I got to get going in this direction.
Like, not like a specific, is it like a specific idea, or is it just like, is
I have
there
a feeling it might be the X-Files like thing, maybe.
some kind of like writing thing, some kind of writing thing where it's just like, they use this kind of technique, maybe I should use this.
No, it was just no. It wasn't. No, it's not. It wasn't the X-Files stuff. I mean, that was reading 15 different UFO books back to back. Lilith. I mean, that was deeply investing myself into the that world, and that reading that was not just to find out what was the Barney Hill abduction like from 1965. I was trying to get into the mindset of people who believe in this and live this, and to sort of become part of their world, to immerse myself in their world. But it was just because it wasn't anything I was looking for, and I just again picked it up on a lark, like, oh, that's kind of cool. I wonder if this will be any good. And I just love the rhythm of it. I just love I love the the way they balance that snark, which I have a problem with, and yet they also and I could have seen the whole. At first, I thought the whole thing was going to be snarky. I thought the whole thing was going to be just fun snark. Like I said, sort of like a Hitchhiker's Guide, and then it took this really evil turn, and then went back to the snark, and then it took this other really evil turn, and I liked that rhythm. I liked the way that the author was able to make that happen, and that just felt like a good something I would want to aspire to, in things I may, do in the future. And and it was just a good read. Like, I wasn't dissecting it as I was reading it. But it just sort of made you, feel the juices flowing, like the creative juices are enjoying creativity as much as producing creativity. And so for me, that was like, yeah, this is good stuff. I gotta make sure I'm raising my game as I do this.
All right, I had a question.
Yes.
If someone came to you and said, they wanted to be a writer, but they've never written anything, what is the very first step you would tell them to do? Well, after reading, what's the first thing you would tell them to do?
Get to writing.
Give up. Go find a real career. No, Lilith, that is it, right? I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, I've taken my share of writers courses over the years, not for a long time, but I think a lot of people go to writers courses, and that becomes their interpretation. Well, I got to take one more course. I got to do one more course. I got to take one more course, one more online course, or listen to one more podcast, or one more online lesson. But writers read and writers write. So you just have to write. and you know, that's a chapter in here somewhere. You know, write shit, I think it's literally called, right? And we were very eloquent, as you could tell. We saved all our words for the paying clients, but it doesn't matter, you know, what you're putting down, as long as you put down something. And you know, that was one of Mark's early tips, I think, was just, you know, he does it every day. Every day he writes. You know, I don't know if it was a set time, but it was at least 20 minutes, you know, 40 minutes, you know, a day, longer maybe, but that was definitely always going to be something, you know, on his screen, um, which could be very tiny screen, because Mark likes to get the smallest little keyboards possible and hook them up to his phone and, you know, work at like little coffee shops, in the strangest possible way. But
that's the other thing. That's the thing he said. He said he didn't like the like a laptop, and like he was down to first like an iPad with a connected keyboard.
oh yeah,
He went even smaller to the phone and
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
yes, it's crazy.
Oh, I
But
know people
he's
like that. They have the little pocket keyboard that folds up.
Little
yeah,
tiny
yeah,
fold out.
yeah,
Okay,
They
yeah.
got the
yeah.
little hot spot ready to go into the
Yeah.
coffee
Oh, I
shop.
love
Yeah,
it.
I know those
Yeah.
people.
That's Mark. I mean, and he's, you know, incredibly prolific and, you know, and very successful, you know, but that's it. He writes anywhere. But I think that's it. You have to write, and that's, you know, that moves you beyond just the thinking about it, or I've got to study one more thing, or I got to watch that, you know, that BBC special with Alan Moore, which is pretty good, you know, by the way. But you know, you should do all that stuff too, but you got to write. And it doesn't matter if it's not any good. What matters is that you're producing something, and then you're discovering how to be good through that act of producing something. And you may write, you know, 10 pages of shit, but you get one line out of it, you get 3 words out of it, you get one idea, and then you decide, you know, to build on that. And you know, one of the, you know, the best ways to kind of move toward that too, even if you have to fall back to this, like there was a writing panel in Dragon Con, and I pulled this one out, and this is something I used a lot in business writing. You know, was, you know, type something, you know, from the genre or whatever it is you're working on. You know, I started doing it first when I was working on IBM, the IBM account and advertising, and I knew nothing about their technology. You know, I knew nothing about this high-end servers that I was working on. So I just started retyping their technical papers, you know, not doing what I was supposed to be doing yet, but just typing the technical papers. So I become familiar with the rhythm of IBM speak, and you know, kind of get in the zone of it. And then I could turn that into the marketing copy because I was sort of in the zone of it. You know, in the same way, you know, I think the tip we translated to in Street Riders, but I was giving this to the Dragon Con guys as well. And a couple of them were like, "What are you talking about?" You know, I said, if you want to write a horror novel or a horror story, you know, type, you know, just retype pages of Richard Kadri or Stephen King. You know, get you'll get. You're not trying to ape them. You're not, but you'll get the rhythm, right? You'll get the rhythm of it. You know, if you want to do a romantic, supernatural thriller, type out pages of Twilight. You know, you're not going to steal from it. That's not the point. But you're understanding. You start to get the muscle memory, right, of like a genre like that. You get the kind of flow of it. I think that's a very successful way to get yourself. Well, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to do yet. Well, okay, then just do that, right? Though that has proven very successful for me, you know, and I know other people because I stole the tip from somebody else, I'm sure. You know?
Feel it and make it your own.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, obviously, you know, there's a tons of tips in the, you know, in Street Riders that are, you know, things we discovered over the years, and then we found a name for them. But you know, there were other ones we just picked up along the way. You know, as we started to do this, then you look for other things. So that's a pretty good one. Let's debate it. You know, let's go back and forth. You know, the critique group. You know, the critique circle. You know, that comes, I think, toward the end of the book, or at the end of the podcast. Well, I don't know where it came to the podcast because I rearranged the book to sort of have a semi structure. but you know, there was the episode and then the chapter in the book, you know, but you need to have a critic circle, right? You need to have somebody that you trust who's going to tear you down and give you honest, raw, brutal feedback. Not like the sycophantic, you know, Chat GPT, like, Dan, no one on the planet has given, you know, a story like this before. You're really onto something. This is bestseller material. And oh wow, I'm onto something. Thankfully, goodness. But and I think Mark like had come up with that one, or you know, brought that one to the table. But it's interesting when you read those chapters or listen to those episodes, because in the same breath, he's also saying, but you have to be the one to choose what you listen to. You know, ultimately it is your story or your whatever. And so you want that, but that doesn't mean if somebody hates it altogether or says, man, I don't get anything out of this, you then have to decide what you take of that and do with something with it, which is a bit different than just like rejecting it wholeheartedly and say, what the fuck do you know? You know, which is always a danger when you ask for feedback from somebody and or somebody asks you for feedback, you give them honest, constructive feedback, and they're like, but my mom says it's great. And but you know, but you do decide, you know, like, you know, somebody may say, I don't like that theme. I don't like what you're doing there, but that theme is important to you. So you listen to the things that people do understand, and then you choose to interpret the rest as you will.
So basically, get someone to look at your work the way Greg Wright looks at your work.
Oh yeah, Greg is my you know, critic's hammer. Yeah, I mean Greg. Yeah, we've talked about that before. I mean Greg is my trusted. You know, oh fuck, you know, he's going to really, you know, I'm scared to send this to him, but I want.
Because you're such
I want that.
He'll give you the brutal, honest truth.
Well, yeah, yeah, you know, but some close friends won't do that. You know, some close friends will bookend it. You know, hey, you put a lot of work into this. You know, wow, you're really looking to explore something different. You know, and then here's what didn't work. Here's what didn't work. Here's what didn't work. Here's what didn't work. But I can see you're onto something. You know, and you know, so really keep going at it. And then all people hear is the bookends, right? You know, I learned that lesson as a creative director in advertising, where I would try to, you know,
the sandwich method doesn't work.
The sandwich method doesn't work at all, right? Like a guy who was a pretty good mentor to me, you know, until he screwed me over. But still a brilliant, you know, creative director would just come into the room, and you know, in that day you had stuff on the wall in the room, and you were in an office together, and you know, different teams would put their work up on the wall for evaluation. He would just come in and go dead. You know, this one we're going to go with, and walk back out. You know, brutal, right? Yeah. But he was right. You know, he was on to what he was onto, and there was no sandwiching, you know, involved in that.
Another important thing you covered was surviving rejection, which I feel like is something that a lot of, like, if you've ever been in like the beginners, like writers groups and like, you know, seminars and stuff, they don't really talk about that. They want to keep it like light and peachy keen, but like it's a real possibility. Yeah. Especially if it's like your first outing that you're gonna be rejected. You're gonna get the letters. And you just have to like figure that out and move on.
Yeah, and it's part of it. Rejection's part of it. You know, there's I wish I could find it, because it was I remember in my mind's eye that it was pretty fun stuff. Early on, like in the Usenet groups, you know, online. You know, there's a comics one, alt.comics. You know, something.net. And you know, somebody was put out the open question, like, well, what's it like writing for comic books? And you know, I was on there, and so I chimed in, and I remember starting it off with like, well, first, you know, learn what it's like to chew on broken glass. Then, if you still enjoy that, you know. But I remember the rest of the advice being pretty good. But I, you know, so many hard drive crashes later, you know, I no longer have a copy for it, and I've you know, tried to Wayback Machine it and look for it, but I don't remember what the group was, and you know, I'm sure it's long gone. But yeah, rejection, imposter syndrome. I mean, you know, the ultimate anxieties of writing are real. And again, the tenet of the book and the podcast that became the book, was about, we're working writers. We have to produce, and part of the production is like dealing with stupid feedback from clients, or good feedback from clients, or people who really want to mentor you, or people who really want to just sort of like demean you, but you still have to get the job done, right? That's the approach we wanted to take to it. As much as we perceived and thought of ourselves as creatives and artists, we were producing writing that had in, for the most part, goals. It had to be, that was going to be that's going to get shot on Friday, even if it was like one of Mark's personal video projects. Mark does a lot of professional video work, but he also, one of the things he started as a playwright. He's won awards as a playwright, and he sort of segued those two into making these short films from time to time. And even though that's for himself, he's going to shoot on Friday, right? Like he's going to shoot on Friday because he already has the location. He's got his actors arriving, so he's got to get it done. And so you have to work through all that stuff, just to make it, happen. I don't think one of the things, we should have probably talked about, maybe we did at some point, is, sometimes you just need to put that manifestation of a goal up there. Like, this will be done this year. This will be done. Like last year, one of my manifested goals, if you will, was to do this. Like, this thing had been sitting around, since we ended it in 2021, or so. And, we had talked about it in one episode. Hey, maybe someday we'll collect this into a book. But all these things were just sitting around. And I said, well, all right, so let me do it. So that was one of my, self-imposed goals, was to turn it into a book, with no bestseller aspirations, or even that there'd be a podcast that we would talk about it. I just wanted to do it to get the content back out there, and also experiment a little bit with that self-publishing tool from that end. So
How have you liked it so far?
How have I liked it? Like, how did I like the
the KD,
process
you
of
went
doing
through KDP, right?
it? Yeah. I thought KDP was awesome. Actually, I had more, like the heavy lifting was, downloading all the transcripts, pulling out all the likes and ums and and all that shit, and um uh or as exactly, I'll throw a few in now just for good measure. Organizing it, trying to kind of give it sections, going after permission,
The title, the covers, all that
the
stuff.
cover, going to the 18 or so people, that we featured. And we I don't know if we technically need to get their permission, but we want to get their permission. So searching that out. But KDP was upload the file, and 2 days later I had a proof. Right, that was amazing. I mean, the print on demand was pretty, wild. I mean, that suddenly you got this book in your hand, and then the proof I had to make some changes on. The margins were, too far into the gutter and that kind of stuff. But that was relatively easy to adjust. And but that was all on me, because Mark had no knowledge I was doing this. This was way well off his radar by this point. So this was my project, my decision, to do this, for those reasons. And then when I brought it to him, he was, it's a book. My name's on it. What's going on? But yeah,
you did all the work. Cool.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, what's there, which is fine. I mean, that's that was my decision. But yeah, have you done anything through KDP, Lilith, or?
I just know a lot of writers who are self-published. They say it's kind of sometimes can be a steep learning curve, especially if you've worked in the print industry before. It's like just kind of a little different.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, because it is print on demand and it's going to run through those high end or high speed printers. Like the I noticed on some of the copies and some of the early proofs, like even can we get that in like semi-focus somewhere like there? This would be out of alignment, a little bit. You got a better camera, exactly. Yeah, and that's part of the thing. You sort of had to. I made some choices there and changed a few things up there, but as far as like I said, I mean, I read a lot. I watched a lot of YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And then
Definitely,
got some answers from that. But literally, it was uploading the PDF, and then it did some auto spot check on, approved it, and then, like I said, I ordered the proof, and the proof showed up in 2 days.
Oh, nice. That's
and,
fast.
yeah, it was crazy. Like suddenly, like it's like there's a book in your hand, and I'm really hoping,
so
there's more
giving you a urge to write something, maybe something else, maybe something fiction wise, or
yeah. I mean, maybe something with truckers from hell. I don't know, but
exactly.
I mean, but there's I was going to say, I mean, I've heard
my next bestseller, the Chichester Chats.
The global comics guys, have been talking about a print on demand thing for comics, for months, so I think that would be amazing. That would be a big game changer.
Now's the time for sure.
Right. To be able to have that, because then you're not doing the Kickstarter. Oh, I got to hit this, this number goal or something. You could just be printing out. You want the comic? Great. The cost per issue might be higher, but most Kickstarter comics are pretty high, priced anyway, but I mean, that would be amazing to not have to have inventory and just, print it, market it. But I think that would be a big game changer for a lot of stuff.
I think people would pay the extra for it too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Very successful.
Right. That would be pretty interesting to play it out. But yeah, I mean, I had like I said, I had a good time with it and enjoyed sort of learning it and figuring out the cover layouts and designs and making the tweaks that way. And some things I was just I didn't sweat the details as much as I might have in the past. And but I went back and forth. I think Ingram has a system too, so I did look at theirs, but Amazon seemed a little more turnkey, at that point.
I did like too, like at the end of each chapter, you have the little barcode. So it's like, for slow learners like myself, it's like, okay, if I didn't get all I think I could get out of the chapters, like you can scan the barcode, get the actual podcast episode, and hear you and Mark to actually tell you in your, in your own voices, this is what we said.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you like that, Phil. I mean, I mean,
it's there. I thought it's almost like well, here's the audio book.
Well, exactly, and I debated as I was putting it together, and I ultimately went with the transcript style of it, because I'm lazy, and that was the minimal amount of work. But I also think the while it takes you a little bit longer because you have to read through the back and forth with me and Mark to get to the point or get to the tip, as opposed to saying tip 14, take 25 minutes, work for 25 minutes straight, stop for 5, and so forth. I think the the chemistry was a big part of it. Like
and the context of the conversation's nice. And
right.
Again, they're like 10-minute episodes. It's not like you got to sit through an hour podcast.
No. I mean, they were very digestible, and I think the having that there, as you said, that's like just a bonus. If you don't want to, if you like the idea, you start to scan it, or you want to know, well, what is it about South Park? Then scan it and listen to it. It's right there. So, or we probably got more listeners now than we did when we were running it. But yeah, they're out there, and they exist, and I don't think there's any plans to take them down. So there was one lost episode as I was going through the transcripts where the titles matched everything, but there was one episode, it had two different titles. There were two different titles between the two episodes, and it was the same audio file, like on both. And so I couldn't find the original. Mark couldn't find the original when I asked him after I'd finished the rest of it, and so I think I just pulled whatever that episode was off, that duplicate. So
lost media, we must
lost
find.
media.
Well, unless you just go ahead and invite Alan Smithy back in and recreate that interview.
I could, but I don't even remember what that content was. There's more than enough. I think good tips in there, and if I don't think that one more was gonna. That one more would be like the one thin mint from the Monty Python movie. the one thin mint, the whole book would explode.
It's a good sized book. It's not like it's like a pamphlet.
It is. It is. It's a real, it's like a real book. Like a.
I love the copy on it. No fluff, no guru speak, no excuses. I really enjoyed that because, boy, I'm telling you, if you've ever had any writing seminars or writing courses that these gurus have, it is just jibber jabber speak.
Well, that's it, and some writing courses are amazing, and writing instructors are terrific.
There's a lot of scammers out there, unfortunately. Now.
There's a lot of scammers, and there's a lot of, I would argue, I'm going to say professional attendees. I think there's a lot of people, and again, God bless them. If that they enjoy doing that, clearly, But I think a lot of people go to a writing seminar, they get some guru speak, and then they immediately sign up for the next writing seminar. As opposed to saying, I got something.
You want something. I think, at least for me, when I do things like that, I want something actionable, and these tips are all actionable things you can implement immediately.
Well, that means a lot. That's great to hear. I mean, because that's what we set out to do. Like, that was it. That was the whole street riders, credo. Was just kind of, use this, get out there and start swinging. Start writing. That's don't self-analyze, don't overanalyze. Today it's going to work, tomorrow it's not, but you got to keep doing it. And hopefully you'll find something here. Even again, that this was organized, into these sections just to try to give it some structure. I think the whole point of this, you could flip it open any section and just sort of like decide, all right, yeah, that's pretty good. Maybe I'll find a use for that, and play it out that way.
Now, have you ever thrown a laptop against a wall? That's the only question that
I did, but it was after it was it was like back in 96, 97, 98.
Did it even break at that point? Those things were tanks back then.
Oh, they were. It was a tank of a computer. It was a very powerful.
Lilith, the Warren Ellis incident.
But it was no, it was being totally stressed out, all this stuff. My wife had got me one of these stress balls. You're sort of like you're doing this, you're working it while you're writing. Except this particular one was filled with this granular sand shit. And as I'm doing this, boom, it explodes. All this grit goes all over the keyboard, and the thing just like, and like gone. And I raced it to, like this. And I was living way upstate New York, and so there was not a nearby computer thing. Probably about an hour and a half away. I got there, and the guy was like, "Man, it's everywhere." It was like the most fine particulate, like granular, sand shit. You could just push the key and you could hear. Everything was like this crunchy goodness, and that was just gone. So, that was a throw the computer against the wall sort of thing.
That sounded like really personal in the copy to keep you from throwing your laptop against the wall. Yep.
So I've never used one of those stress things since.
I can see why.
Not working. Not that way.
But yeah, I think like there was like one of the tips. I'm trying to remember what chapter it was, but I think it pertains to like any creative endeavor where it's basically like you know what, just keep creating whatever you're doing. And it's like, if this one doesn't like connect with an audience now or ever, it's just like, it's still like a step in your creative journey.
Well, that's it. And Mark was really, big on a lot of that stuff. And he's pulled things off the shelf that he wrote 7 years ago. Maybe this was going to be a play, and now he's turned it into a little film, like, or he was doing a lot of audio productions, audio dramatic productions. Grease, Grit, and Crime, is like his little audio production thing. For a while it was Grease, Grit, and Crime in COVID time, and then he finally dropped the COVID time. I said, well, COVID's still around, but you might want to drop that. But yeah, and you don't, and sometimes I think once you unlock yourself from certain things and you just, again, write, it doesn't always have to have a purpose, to it. Sometimes you just want to get it out of you. This thing I just finished, was inspired by reading something I thought I was really going to enjoy, a kind of a grindhouse horror story by a well-known writer who I like and respect. But I felt it just dropped the ball, for what I expected it to be. I was expecting this kind of from dusk till dawn, sort of like roller coaster, like, balls to the wall, sort of, Danny Trejo's going to walk out of the, the back room at any moment, sort of thing. And it just was like, wah wah, like a sort of a sad trombone thing. And I was like, man, I could do better in this, and so I should. And so then I just got some wild grindhousey idea, and I just wrote it I don't know what the hell is going to happen with it. I don't know if anything's going to happen with it, but it's, but sometimes you just do that stuff for that reason, just to keep yourself going and keep yourself, creating. And it's a good outlet. I'm sure there's one of the tips in here somewhere. If you get hung up on one thing, a little bit different than David Quinn's advice, but if we hit a wall on one thing, then you can switch to the other one, and then just keep yourself writing.
Grab your 3D printer or your drone and just go out and get some fresh air.
Well, that's different. I mean, that's valuable too, like taking the break. But I think having and Mark definitely says this, at one point or another. It's a very Markish thing, to say. But having several things kind of in the queue means you can shift between them, right? That one thing isn't going so well, or maybe you're waiting on feedback on something. Say it's a business project or a marketing project. Then while you're waiting for the feedback from the account people, go and work on your mini play, go and work on your grindhouse, idea, and, knock off a bunch of pages on that, even if those pages aren't going to go anywhere right now. Or you end up like saying, oh, this doesn't really jive, but there's one thought in there that's got me thinking deeper about it.
Justin, do you have any questions? I know you've done some writing. Is there any writing questions you have for?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that I've struggled with is just getting discouraged. Just kind of, especially nowadays when we're all working on the computers during our day jobs and stuff like that, and trying to do some extra writing at night. Just especially as I get older, my eyes are just getting poached. So spending the prospect of spending more time at the computer at the end of the day to do writing, in addition to the day job stuff, it's tough. Yeah, so I actually did that. I got an old notebook out and I just started doing some writing by hand. So I was wondering if you had any similar types of
that is very much a tip in here somewhere, Justin.
Okay, yeah.
Because switching mediums, and I totally empathize. I totally, get what you're saying. The last thing you want to do, it's the thing you want to do, but it's the last thing you want to do after a long day or a long slog, at the rest of it. But it doesn't matter where you write, right? I love my little field notes, pocket journaly things.
Yes, those are great.
These I carry with me everywhere for these new projects. A couple of new projects I've been working on. I've gotten like these larger. They're not moleskinny, but they're these type of things.
Yep.
And I've used these to just like take pages and pages of notes. This was like the X-Files book, Lilith. This is just like
Wait, open
like
that really quick.
really quick,
What's a spoiler?
Spoiler. Do a screen grab. Screen grab right there. But just kind of capturing anecdotes and stuff like that. It doesn't have to be that you get all the the every word down, right? But you're jotting down something. And then you get enough of those, I think, and then you get an assembly, and then maybe you want to sit at the computer and assemble them into something. I mean, when I do comics writing, and this is just something I've done, forever. These guys, know. I mean, I'll use specifically, like a legal pad, and I will just I have every instrument possible here with my non-focusing camera. But what I'll do is I'll go down every line of this, and I will, just hit a moment. Grabs chain, hauls up, swings wide, slice many in succession. Just to capture the moments, and I don't have to sit in front of a computer to do that.
Not sponsored or anything, but can I say that the free write is amazing?
Yes.
Oh,
free write's pretty cool.
It's e-ink screen, really easy on the eyes, because I've been getting away from screens because I spend literally 10 hours a day at work. I do 50 hours a week in front of a computer.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So
right?
I got this instead.
Yeah.
This one's specific.
I forgot about that.
E-ink.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was
this is like the
tempted by
cheaper
that.
of the options. This one's only like $500. The other ones are usually anywhere between like $6 and $8. So
right. I was tempted by that so many
enough.
times. The other thing, Justin, is it's routine is good, right? I think that again, you're getting home, you're tired out. Mark prescribes that write every day thing, and I do think there's real value to that. But if you got to write on Saturdays or whatever, put it on your calendar, put it on your alarm, tell your family, between 11 and 12, whatever, on Saturday mornings, like I'm locked off, and make that deal with yourself, right? Like
turn the phone off.
Yeah. Do the thing where your phone, like, puts you on do not disturb time,
right.
and
lock out all your apps.
Yeah, exactly. Block out the apps, turn off turn the color off, so it's
turn all the
ugly black and white
off. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then just do it, schedule it like you were going to the gym. And then you may find that, well, I actually can do this Saturday and Sunday, right? And then I can do this Saturday and Sunday and Monday, because we waste an inordinate amount of time decompressing, right? I can't do anything time. I got to watch 6 hours of Stranger Things, which is not a bad way to spend 6 hours, but that's 6 hours of somebody else's creativity. And I think that you can if it's something you want to do, the important thing is to find that time. And if that time is 10 minutes, that's good too. But switching over to it's still something. But switching over to these different, little mediums, a nice pen, it doesn't have to be some calligraphy thing, but like, find something that like flows, really nicely, so you're not struggling with it. And, you're just jotting down stuff and you'll get good stuff out of that. I guarantee you.
Do you write scripts for your podcast, Justin? If not, maybe you should start there.
I do.
Like outline or something. Yeah. Or then flesh them out, or.
Yeah, I usually type them out, but I'll have to start getting the notebook out. Yeah.
Yeah. Because a lot of times you're by yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. And also with the stuff that I've written, like if I could give any advice to any beginning writer, it would be not to get discouraged.
Yep.
If you, because I remember I had this great intentions in my 20s to write this massive 10 novel series that I had planned out for years, and I thought this is going to be epic. I'm going to get this done. People are going to love this. and I spent a couple of years writing the first novel and went through rewrites and multiple drafts and everything, and finally finished it. I think it ended up being about 378 pages or something like that, and I finally finished it, and I felt a good feeling of accomplishment about that, but I still wasn't happy with it. I still felt like there was something off about it that wasn't right, or that I wasn't satisfied with, and I wasn't prepared to release it to the public yet. But I also thought,
Okay.
you know what? I'm going to go back to this later. I'm going to let this sit for a while. I'm going to work on something else. I'm going to go back to this. And maybe in a few years, with a fresher outlook, I'll have rediscovered something, or I'll have some other slant that I can put on this and make a new draft out of it. And then I'll be pleased with it, or I'll be more pleased with it, because as creative people, we're never 100% pleased with what we create, as we know. But I'll be more pleased with it. I'll be pleased to the extent where I would feel comfortable releasing it to the public for consumption. So that's what I would, the advice that I would give. And I'm sure that you mentioned it in your book, that just not to get frustrated or not to give up or get discouraged if you feel like it's not ready, or if it's not done, or if it's not complete, because someday it will be.
Right.
If you ever get sad, just remember, Winds of Winter's still not out yet, guys.
That's it. That's it. You know.
Take your time.
And how long ago was that, Justin, that you finished that draft?
Oh God, I think it was over 10 years ago. Yeah.
Yes, you're still beating Winds of Winter.
Yeah, beating Winds of Winter. But I mean, there are, find that trusted critique circle, like, a person of one, or a couple people, and that's put it in their hands and be ready for what comes. If it's hard, because that's going to galvanize you to, like, I'm going to prove them wrong. It's going to either inspire you, because then you're going to see, well, geez, 50% of it is here, even though these guys are being, hard on me, which, may inspire you to get back to it, or you're going to be inspired to prove them wrong.
Right.
And go back in and, attack it that way. I mean, one of the best writers' books, is, is Stephen King's on writing, but is Stephen Pressfield's, The War on Art. Do you know that one?
No.
So Stephen Pressfield, is a well-known screenwriter and other things, but he wrote this, famous tome, very thin. It's a so it's an easy repeat read, but his basic conceit of the book is that resistance is a thing, like a real thing, like a manifested, tangible thing that lives inside, the artist's head. And resistance you're never going to get rid of it. Like, you're never going to get rid of it. It's always going to be trying to outwit you in one way or the other. It's either going to be full bore imposter syndrome, in which case, it's telling you you're not good enough, or it's going to be like, you are really good, but what you need to do is take one more writing course. Just one more, just one more, or you need to work on this draft just one more time.
And one more chapter.
One more chapter, like, find ways, or what you need to do? You need to do a little more research. You need to write, you need to read one more book on UFOs before you write that story.
Right.
And we'll always look for some, it's like when your mind, comes up with a different anxiety dream, it all starts off with, like, you missed the SAT course. When you finally, like, get over that one because now you're in college, then it's like, you didn't show up in time for graduation, whatever, we'll always look for something. But it's a great, be aware of what's there working against you, so that you can find, you'll never get rid of it, but you can outwit it and defeat it because you're aware of its patterns. It's a really good book. I'm pretty sure we at least steal from it or reference it in Street Riders. So,
all right. So, any other questions?
No, it sounds like you guys had a good time with this. Thank you for bringing this to the screen and the mic.
Yeah, this is fun.
I see you have a little link there for the book. The barcode in the corner there. That's another link. Go buy.
Oh, awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's that weird little link is the direct one. You can actually go on Amazon and search on Street Writers, and I'm pretty sure it's the only thing that shows up. So
yeah, that's the
kind of a
Amazon
thrill.
link up
You
there.
too can have your book in 2 days due to Prime
Yeah,
if you have it.
exactly. Yeah, get it. It's print on demand. It comes to you. It's a pretty good looking tome. It's nice, hefty thing, $15.99, and it's cheaper than I sell it at the conventions. So
Go to the convention.
But the convention, you get an autograph too. How do we? Oh, by the way, didn't you guys offer like some raffle or something for like a free copy, or did I do that, or we did it together?
I put it out there. I didn't hear anything. That's probably my fault.
Oh,
I probably didn't advertise it correctly, but yeah, it is out there. I haven't heard anything yet. So
okay. Well, if folks are listening, if Phil and Lilith and Justin figure out a way to have a drawing or raffle,
I was like, so many question.
I will leave the yeah, exactly. I will leave the details to you. But we have a copy, here that could be one, with an autograph and everything else. So we can go that way.
Nice.
All right. So yeah, go buy Street Writers. Daniel,
perfect stocking stuffer.
Yes.
They're perfect for Christmas. Well, yes,
the best gift, the gift of reading, yes, and knowledge.
There you go.
Yeah, if you're writing anything, yeah, you should read this book. All right, but I was going to ask selfishly, Daniel, was there any updates on any of these upcoming Black Box series?
Well, Risk is finished. It's out there. I'll follow up with you on your question about issue 5, but that's all done. The 5th issue of the what we'll call the Barbarian Sword and Sorcery book is cooking along. I still know we're calling it, although I went back and forth with Demetrios on some new titles. Winds of Winter, maybe we'll just take that and run with that for. So that's looking great. He's rising up my imposter syndrome because I gave him the scripts for the X-Files one probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I still haven't heard back. So but I know he's been busy, and I know he has it, and I know he'll read it soon. And then I just started in on I gave him the outline for the sequel to the Barbarian one, since he seems so keen on that. He wants to do a second run on that, and which was kind of cool. So he liked the pitch for the second one, so I'm starting in on that as well. And then I'm talking to an artist, not necessarily to work on that Grindhouse one I was talking about, that horror one, but I'm going to run it past her because I like her sensibilities. I've met her at conventions a few times, and I just want to get like a sense of she's a little bit more in the industry, so I want to get a read on who might be good to work on this if I do want to go forward with it, and where I might want to take it, because it is sort of just a thing I didn't expect to kind of create, and now that I have, I think it's got some possibilities.
So no updates on release dates or anything?
No. I mean, no, nothing like that. But I want to pin, Demetrios down a little bit, but it's hard. I mean, he's an independent publisher, he's a smaller publisher, and I mean, there's still no easy answers on comics distribution right now. So I mean, that's tricky to navigate that.
Did we have a date for the trade yet?
For Risk?
Yeah.
No, I was talking to him about that. I think he's got to cool his jets on that a little bit, just because of all those situations. So, I don't think there's a definitive, it'll be out in April or it'll be out in, whatever. I think he's got to navigate the landscape of just distribution before he can, make a judgment call on that.
Okay.
So I'd say keep your eye on the Black Box website. Keep an eye on D.D. Chichester.
Yeah. I mean, as soon as I got word, and I'm gonna double down on just promoting the individual issues more now that they're all out. I wasn't able to do the same cadence I'd done in the past with like some of the Daredevil stuff or whatever, just because there were some of those hiccups in the shipping schedule. So it was kind of hard to do, your tracking. But now that the issues are all out, it's kind of evergreen to some extent. So I can push that out to the public and social and all that kind of good stuff.
All right. Well, next episode is going to be episode 50.
I know. My God, you guys have been so good to me.
You've been good to us. Be so serious.
Oh, he didn't.
He doesn't know the spoilers.
He didn't know what the guest list. Oh no, he has to prepare. No. All right. Episode 50. I wanted to get a guest to, maybe we could talk some Daredevil and stuff with, and see how you guys compare and contrast. And I could have went the easy route. I know Greg Wright is always a yes when it comes to you, but I didn't. I went elsewhere to find someone who also did a short Daredevil run and also wrote Black Armor Daredevil in a Spider-Man story. So yes, next month joining us will be Mr. J.M. DeMatteis.
Are you serious?
Yeah. What do you
awesome.
Why do you think I put it on the calendar without consulting you first? I'm like, I'm always
That's
like,
awesome.
hey Dan, what day is good for you? I didn't do that this time. I was just like, here, show up.
Oh my God, that's
you got
pretty
the
amazing.
little treatment on that
but
one.
then what do I got to say with Mark there? It's kind of like, oh shit, it's like Mark, what am I supposed to say? He can take over the whole show. Like I'll be like, I used to be so intimidated by Mark. Man, he scared the shit out of me. Oh my God, he'd show up in his leather jacket and his like, his like long flowing hair and his like his dark sunglasses and like him and Kent Williams kicked the shit out of me on Blood when I was their editor and at Epic, and it was just like, it was just brutal. But I love him. I think he's like an amazing writer, but he wants to show up on this show and like talk about this stuff.
Yeah,
he shows up all the time, so I guess he can show up for you too.
I was gonna say we've talked to him a few times, but I laid down the situation. Yeah, he was all down. Yeah.
Oh my God. But I mean, that'd be fun to talk about that, because I don't agree with his interpretation of that story, like where he went with that story.
Yeah.
Where like, he took it from like, well, Matt's all, screwed up in the head. He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know, is he Jack Batlin? Is he Matt Murdock? But I don't know what he got, in terms of direction, or if he just chose to do that. And it was his story at that point, so I respect that, I remember calling him like, like, Mark, I hear you're taking over the book, after they kind of didn't tell me I was off it. And but no, he's a terrific guy. And it just, as I said, like one of the writers I just enjoy so much. So that'd be fun.
I thought it'd be interesting to compare and contrast where you guys see the character and like even writing in general similar, and where maybe it differ and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, but he's gonna talk all like, super like, detail, and I'll just be babbling. I'll just be like, but I wrote this, this podcast thing, it's like, let me read a chapter.
It'll be fun. It'll
be absolutely fun. That's great. That'd be a nice surprise.
Episode 50. Yeah. So yes, kids. In celebration of Dan putting up with us for this long. Yes.
We tricked him, boys.
I was going to save it for 50. Well, I'll save it for 50. We'll talk about it like at 50. No, you guys have done me this has been a joyous journey. So, look forward to next month now.
So yes, but it's a Saturday morning. So yes, that was his choice. So
no problem. Yep.
Coffee's for closers. Don't forget it.
Coffee is for closers. Coffee is for closers. Always like, there is no escaping that fact. All right. Well, guys, thanks so much. Fun way to spend a Sunday evening.
This is
great. Justin, do you have a copy of this book? Did you
I don't know, but I'm gonna seek it out.
All right. Well, I was going to say, send me.
Hey man, I threw it out there. Anyone that has any, sends in a question, you're automatically, and then Justin's the only one
you had a question, Justin. So
That's right.
You may win the copy. That's
right.
the way it goes. So just tag me with your your deets afterwards, and you can
Okay,
get the
yeah.
win the copy.
Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, that's great.
All right, folks. We'll talk soon enough. I got to go make sure I can keep up with Mark and and the other Mark. Mark for episode 50, and we'll go from there. All right, folks. Be well.
All right, thank you, sir.
Happy Halloween.
Yes,
Early.
You.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take care. Bye.
Bye. I hope I didn't intimidate him. Be like, JFD Mateus. He's like, oh shit.
No.
It's like got a cold.
Well, as we know, for almost 50 episodes, Lilith, I mean, yes, Dan's harshest critic is himself.
He's himself, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, I usually cut it off there, but yeah, you know what? Let's promote ourselves.
Touch grass.
Well,
Don't you do it.
What?
Don't
gone?
do that drop.
He's gone.
Don't do the drop.
All right, I won't do it. All right. I didn't do that drop. All right. So yes. Yeah, go pick up Street Writers. It's on Amazon. You can pick it up elsewhere.
Don't forget to check out Story Maze.
Oh yeah. Yes, his newsletter. Yeah. Again, he's all over social media. It's usually just DG Chichester. So
it's gonna be the battle of the initials next.
I know, that's what I said. I'm calling him Dan.
yeah.
I'm calling him Dan next episode. I'm gonna be tripping all over those initials. Be like, hey, Mr. DG Mateus and JM Chichester, yeah. All right, but and again, if you could find us, and you should have sent in some damn questions, people, but you can at any time. That CapesandLunatics@gmail.com, or call the voicemail 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. And remember, you can find us on pretty much all social media. Again, the newest ones are Reddit and TikTok. Help support us by buying merch at TeePublic or Spring, or Lilith Hellfire's favorite method. Just give us money, like you're a 25-year-old, at the Cash App link, CapesandLunatics. And of course, you can always subscribe to our Patreon, where again you will get an extra exclusive, at least one exclusive bonus episode every month. It's completely uncensored.
October was a good one.
Oh yeah, extra long hail, and and the three of us
for
talk
more than one reason.
We talked all kinds of horror, and like you said, yeah, it's over an hour and a half long. So got your bang for your buck there.
That's right.
Oh, speaking of Lilith, I finished The Substance today. Wow, holy crap!
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, it's a movie.
Oh, that veers right in the horror at the end there. Yeah. All right, so yes, you can subscribe, and again, when you subscribe and you're a patron, you can suggest topics for discussion. Like
tell us what to do.
That's right. You get to be Lilith Hellfire's boss and get away with it. All right, so yes, you can subscribe right now at patreon.com/CapesandLunatics. That's one of the best Justin drops. All right, and of course, again, not only is this Justin here with us, not only is he a writer, but yes, as Lilith mentioned, he does his own podcast also.
That's
so,
right. The Lost Library of Legends. Yeah, you can find me every month over there chatting about some obscure comic book gems of the past. This month will be The Nocturnals from Malibu Comics.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because yes, he, as a lot of us do, he likes a certain era. So
I do.
Going back to the 90s here, bitch.
It was our golden age.
That's right. We needed one of our own too.
It's like
some would say the platinum age.
What was your golden age? Was it the era of like legendary characters were created, like Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four? No, we grew up in the 90s with big old boobs,
pouches and guns.
Yeah.
Big hair, bigger boobs, bigger pouches, and even bigger
tiny waist.
That's right. Tiny waist, no feet.
No feet.
Jim Lee setting some impossible standards. All right.
7-member comic book teams. Yeah, they have to have 7 members and no more, no less.
The government would come in and tell you otherwise.
Yep.
Oh, since we were speaking of fine literature this episode, yes, you can also pick up Dick Grayson Boy Wonder on Amazon.
That's right.
From
Support an educator.
Kristen. Yes.
Yep. Another writer in our midst.
Professor Kristen, yes. That's right.
I'm getting imposter syndrome, damn it.
You! I'm the dumbest one in the room. Come on.
We're all smart in our own ways, Phil.
That's true.
That's right, damn it. I know tell me a story and I'll tell you which Spider-Man issue is in. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
OCD.
You're the Podfather.
Dr. Doom,
Exactly.
350. Dr. Doom, 350. Yes, that's right. Yes, and you can find me on social media at Podfather Phil. And then yes, we only got 3 more episodes for October spooky season.
It goes by so fast.
Yeah,
We've got some good stuff coming up too.
Next episode, Kristen will return, and we will. I'll see if I can get Tyler again. Yes, because we're going to do the other Superman story, the Blaze Satanist War.
She's in for a treat.
Yes.
Triangle numbers.
Or is it a trick? I guess we'll
And mark
find
my
out.
words, in another month, we're going to see an article from CBR about the Blaze Satanist War.
Surprise! If we wanted to be timely,
You just need the hashtag. You heard it here first. Like an automatic thing just goes out.
Oh, if I share the link to our video of the episode, I shall hashtag it. You remember, you heard it here first.
You heard it here first.
Nobody's crying.
Yes, kids, we're the inspirational muse for Brian Cronin of CBR.
Yeah. Who would have thunk it?
Here we go. We'll give you a prize if Brian Cronin shares something you heard here, and you're like, I heard that on the Capes and Lunatics first.
Tell the Capes and Lunatics heard it here.
I'll give you a good damn prize. You do that.
Tell them Capes and Lunatics sent you.
Send our regards.
Capes and Lunatics sent me, a dirty thief. Oh. All right. And then then we'll get back to the Ghost Rider as we'll cover more of the original Ghost Rider, Ghost Rider issues 71 through 73.
The
Speaking of
anti-hero.
Yes, and issue 71, speaking of, was written by J.M. DeMatteis. So.
Yes. Nice.
All right. And then again, we'll close out the month with our Halloween episode where we do the movie review of Sinners.
Woohoo!
Maybe talk some Halloween treats.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, better tell everybody's on warning. If you bring candy corn, you will be getting roasted like a chestnut on an open fire.
Yeah.
We don't do that here.
I haven't had candy corn in years, but I almost want to do it just to be like, hey, Lilith.
Might as well just say the word moist at that point.
Moist.
I might have my bag of circus peanuts, though.
Oh! All right, you heard it here first. He'll have nuts in his mouth. All right, kids. Oh, it's like T-ball, man. You just set it up for me. All right. Thank you for joining us. And we'll see you in a few days for the Blaze Satanist War. Peace.